we could all write it. All you need is the mail, the mail functionality on the back, and you can put the interface together with basic controls. So there's nobody that's come along and said, this is what a great iPad app is. There are a lot of good, fair iPad apps that came out in the store and released, but none of them that were great. And there's really been no gold standard at this point, so there's a lot of opportunity. Well, this process also sucks for the iPad. And you can kind of see why. There's lots of time. Building prototypes is involved, it's expensive. Engineers hate big design. When I was at C4 last September, Michael Locke, senior manager at Apple, got up and he talked about their design process. And he talked about how they actually designed full-blown Photoshop mock-ups, pixel precision, completely, before they build anything. Before they open Xcode, before engineers are scratching paper down, they work through every single iteration. And there were engineers in the audience going, no way, I can't do that. I got to get my hands on code. But they designed everything down to the pixel level detail. And you see the results. There's another problem that we have. In our community, a lot of us are going to go out and get investor capital to build our projects. The small ones we can build in, our attic in the evening. We can take some time, but if you really want it, if you've got this ambitious idea for the platform, you're going to need to get investor money. And investors just won't pay for this process. They're not going to, can you imagine you walk in, well, we've got this great idea, give us $2 million, and we're going to sit down, we're going to spend the next year figuring out how awesome it is, and validating it, and figuring it out. No. And they shouldn't. You should have all this figured out before you pitch them. And the first big idea I have is that no app idea is a good idea until you've designed the interaction. Now, do you need to do pixel level, full Photoshop mock-ups before you touch code like Apple does? I don't know. There's part of me that says yes. But until you've thought about how people are actually going to use this, you shouldn't write a single line of code. So that's kind of the premise of where we're going with this. So I want to start with 4 guidelines for iPad design. This is going to get esoteric at times. I'm going to talk about, high-fluid design ideas, but I think they're all relevant. And the whole idea around this intuitive approach is that it's something that you and I can understand. You don't need a fancy design background to understand it. It's just something that's intuitive that you can figure out if you're willing to put the work into it. So the first guideline is dynamic. Now this, again, we were talking about the iPhone. When I originally gave this talk, it was kind of a harder idea, but I think we developed for the iPhone, now the iPad. The iPad's even more dynamic. You can turn it in every single direction, and your app needs to respond to it. This is something that is such a blank sheet of paper, and it is so dependent on the user's taste. It makes web design look easy. And there's a lot of classic graphic designers that have a hard time with web design because the user can do all these wacky things. They can change font sizes. They can change their browser. This is not a poster you're designing. The form factor actually changes per particular use. And this is something that's, you kind of think about it, you're like, well, no, it's the same size, where it always is an iPad's an iPad's an iPad. Well, so much of the interface, or so much of your interaction with that device is software that it really does change. The physical device kind of disappears. So what you need to do when you're designing your software is think about how are people going to use this? Are they going to be running? And this is something that I'm going to be looking at. They're just going to be tapping. You design it differently than someone who's sitting on a subway trying to read something. It's ergonomic. We're all hardware designers now. That's kind of an odd thing, but a lot of the things, the decisions we have to make, the control sizes and stuff like that, have typically been the purview of people who design the hardware. And there's all these ergonomic positions. Ergonomics is not just how you sit in your seat, it's how easy is something to grab. How easy can I see things from a distance, up close? Now you've really got to get into, well, how are they going to hold it? How are they actually going to interact with my app? Is it going to be, you start talking about word table, or are they going to have this scans? I want to make things super minimal, and they get images of Johnny Ive, and I use a midnight blue t-shirt talking about how it's a single sheet of glass, and it's so wonderful, and they pick up British accents. something, but really it's just a word that means nothing. It means kind of, sort of, something like less. And when you think about it, it's kind of ironic. It's a word about saying less is more, and it's got all this shit around it. So it really doesn't make sense, and it's a word that's overused a lot. And it's used for all these. Don't know what's going on there. Random transition. So it's used for all these, I'm going to call them fortune cookie design ideas. You know, they're these little quotes, almost like political quotes, you know, where a politician will give up and give an hour-long talk on something, and CNN will give you, you know, the little soundbite that's 5 minutes or 5 seconds of it. So there's all these portions of great design treaties that a lot of people throw out. And in the design, in the Apple community especially, you know, we're focused on design, so we talk about these things. And, you know, and I can see the guy's website who's writing about this. You know, it's a light gray, muted gray background with really light, low contrast text on top of it. There's no links, everything's in lowercase. You know, it's like an E. Cummings wannabe. And it's just a strip of text, you know, it's very bare. And they talk about how it's spare and it's wonderful. And it's bullshit. First of all, it's called the international style. Let's get it right. Minimalism, modern design, it's called the international style. Who here has heard of the Bauhaus? If you followed Apple at all, you've probably heard of it. Well, how many of these people have heard of Walter Gropius? All right, 2 people. That's pretty good. That was better when I talked to Apple. Walter Gropius is the guy who founded the Bauhaus. A lot of people haven't heard of him. A lot of people hear the Bauhaus and say it's Bauhaus inspired. Or, you know, they're talking about the same fortune cookie design ideas that I talked about. Well, Gropius believed that design was a search for truth. Nowhere does he talk about taking away everything, no buttons, muted gray backgrounds, and low contrast text. He actually thought of it more scientifically.